Hey there! Today's Create With Me is going to be a doodle with an underpainting of watercolor. So let's get started. The materials that I used are Fabriano Artistico hot press watercolor paper, masking tape, and washi tape. So of course I taped the paper down and we're going to get started with an underwash. So the first thing I did was I sort of washed the paper down. Now, I had two thoughts here. I wanted one to be like a soft, let the colors flow into each other, sort of like, sky and background. And the other one, I wanted the colors to be a little bit more punchy. So I have the list of the paints that are used in the description. But for the most part, I went through and I sort of just I picked colors that I thought went well together, and I just let the creativity flow. I didn't, get caught up on too much of anything. So, like I said, one side I wanted it to be sort of, flow into each other, really soft, and the other one I wanted the colors to be a little bit more punchy. Originally, what I planned was to have a lot of blooms, create a lot of blooms on the page, but I did get some, as you will see, but not as many as I wanted. But I really liked the way this is ultramarine red, and this ultramarine turquoise played well together. And of course I had to add one of my favorite colors, which is azo green. I love that color. So it's just a matter of putting down paint where you feel you need it. I didn't plan anything out other than the colors. I sort of played with the colors on a piece of scrap paper just to see what I thought went well together, dark and light. I love this Moonglow. I added Moonglow, some sprinkles, just because I rarely get to do that for some reason, but I love it. I love the way it looked. I also allowed this to dry naturally. I didn't use the blow dryer. Sorry, I didn't use the blow dryer. I sort of let it dry naturally, which means that it took some time, and so literally the next day. So here it is. Everything is dry. Didn't do too bad. Not too much buckling. I decided to use to actually copy the actual artwork onto paper. So I digitized the files and I printed them out on my printer. And I did this for two reasons. One is I wanted to free myself up from feeling like I needed to create a masterpiece, which is going to be part of the things we're going to talk about today. And the other is because I didn't want to ruin my nibs on my fine liners on the paper. Now I have hot press paper, so it's really not that big of a deal in this case, but I don't know. I just felt like maybe printing it out might be a way to go this time. Typically I would do it on top of the paper, but I decided to give myself an out. And I thought about this, and I think that's a really good idea, right? Some of the pressure that we put on ourselves to make the most perfect artwork every time we sit down can prevent you from doing things. So at this point in the game, I'm like, anything that's going to help me to push forward, to actually put something on the white paper, I'm doing it. So printing this out left me with options, and that felt really good. So with this painting, I chose just to do one. I still have the other one to do, so I just did the one for this video, right? The first thing I wanted to do was I didn't want to define myself based solely off trying to make something real. Like my intention was never to come in and draw some real thing from here. It was supposed to be imagination, right? I started off at the top though, and I just kept seeing flowers, and I didn't want to add any more paint. I really wasn't interested in adding pencil or altering the color once I put it down. I just wanted to use watercolor and the line art. So even though I saw flowers, I felt like I needed to do more to make it look better, but I didn't want to invest that much time in that. So I saw the flowers, and then I couldn't unsee the flowers. So I kept going. So here I'm literally just sort of adding some ribbons and dots. I think this big section of red here at the top, on the top left, it's on the top left of the screen. I wanted to sort of balance that out a little bit. And I saw online, I was watching a video and someone was doing some doodles with like ribbon and balls, and I'm like, oh, I wanted to try that. So I decided to try it here. And then in the background, I just wanted it to feel floaty, and I don't know. So I added the cross hatching here, or I guess this is cross hatching. Yeah, pretty much cross hatching here up behind everything to kind of give it some ground and to connect it all. And then I saw these white spaces in the coloring, and I said, well, maybe I can use that to tie everything together. So I'm really just letting my imagination flow and not trying, like I said, not trying to do anything that felt like it was real life. You know, if it felt like a leaf and it was floating on a cloud, then I just let it do what it do. This sort of reminds me of what if you had to take a picture of my imagination, or you know, in a way it feels like this is what my imagination might look like. Some, you know, crazy weird mix of things that don't go together, but yet it's here. And so this part on this section here, sort of the blue felt like clouds. It felt like I was looking from above and I could see the clouds, and the clouds were sort of sitting and breaking up the ground below it. So I thought that was pretty neat. I won't say that I loved the end result of this picture, but that's not the point. The point was to have fun. I also wanted to mention here that I did use Derwent graphic pencil to sort of add some depth to everything. So this was another Zentangled sort of object that I wanted to play around with. Just the fact of having like a secluded section, and within that section you had this depth to it, you know. So I really love the way the patterns play with each other. And then outside of that specific area, I sort of added this depth to it by using the color as the height, and then creating some 3D effects to it by adding the side pieces to it. So I had fun with that part. Of the pieces that I liked, this was one of the sections that I really liked. It's nothing realistic about it whatsoever, but I like adding that part that makes it feel a little bit like something that your brain would recognize, you know? So here again, I just was in a really circly kind of mood. And I wanted to tie that section at the bottom left along, you know, at least across I thought of this as the terrain. So I figured I would, you know, stretch this across and continue on with the circles. I also like drawing what I call noodles, where I just have, you know, curly noodles everywhere. I think of it sort of like quilting. Like if I had a sewing machine and I was quilting the top of a quilt, like what would that line look like? And sometimes I get in that space and I just draw lines and try not to stop the line. Although these are definitely not it, but I wanted to give that feel to that. So once again, I'm just adding more squigglies, more circles, more, you know, just kind of tying it all together with a little bit of a different design, but using circular designs to kind of help tie it all together. I don't know that I'm going to get anything cohesive at this point because I'm sort of looking at that section at the top with the quote unquote flowers, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to tie this in. And this is when I started getting a little discouraged at this point, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But once again, the point is not to make something beautiful. The point was really to doodle and to trying to get our minds in a space where, you know, we're just having fun. So then I got to this point where I saw these white spaces as a place where it's like is the earth trying to squeeze up into the sky? Like it's just like, oh, here's a space I can just squeeze right through here. So I kind of made those spaces feel like it was, bursting with something. I don't know what, but it is what it is. I enjoyed doing it. It was fun. That little section on the side, that blue section on the left-hand side, sort of feels like the sky. It literally feels like I'm looking down from above and I can see some sky, and through that sky I can see some pieces down below, right? I love the way that blue sort of like drifted off and the white was left on the paper, the way that just sort of melded together like that was really nice. I did another one of those circle areas where we have this texture in the inside. It sort of reminded me of like this secret door. And if I walked up to it, then the whole inside would just start unfolding like an origami door. I really like that. I was having fun with that. Then here I'm trying to add some sort of floral or flower type motif to kind of bring that in. I was really trying to psych myself up to do the flowers, but I will admit to you right now, I am going to lose steam. You will see that soon here in a minute, but I am going to lose steam. Yeah. So then I started decorating the flower a little bit here, trying to get it to look a little bit like a flower. Like I said, I think if I had added some words are hard. If I had added some the pencils to this artwork, I probably could have added some depth, and I would have been inspired maybe to push it a little bit further, but I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want the, first off, I'm working on copy paper, so copy paper and pencils, I mean, I can make it happen, but it felt like it was going to be a big ask, right? But two, I just wanted to keep it as simple as possible. I really just wanted to doodle, and I wanted to not push myself to feel like I needed to draw something realistic. So the fact that it felt like flowers and I was trying to push it to be flowers, we'll see how this goes. I already know how the story ends, so I don't want to ruin it for you guys, but if you want the cheat code, I don't think it went well, but I had a really good time doing this. This was fun. So here I'm sort of adding some, shadow and depth to some of the places. Another thing too is that I think the pressure, and this is real, the pressure of doodling and coloring and painting and all the things on camera, it felt different, right? I didn't feel as free. I felt a little different doing it. So I think it's a matter of me getting used to doing it on camera. Once I get used to that, it'll feel a little bit different. I'm not going to tell you you're going to get, a Mona Lisa out of me, but at least I won't feel pressured. I did feel a little pressure. It was a little weird. I will say that much. Now this part, I actually enjoyed this part, using that smaller nib to kind of create those faded circle, I don't know what you want to call those, behind the flowers was really nice. I enjoyed that, and I apologize for my hand being off camera. Once again, like I said, it's hard to get used to making sure that I'm actually on camera the entire time. That's a little bit of a learning curve for me, but I will get that. No worries. So yeah, just adding these little things here. I really fell in love with that part. That was really fun. That was probably after I realized that the flowers were going to take a little bit more from me than I was willing to give. I was like, well, at least I'm having fun doing this. This part was cool. And I love the coloring here, that little azo green coming through, and the purple that was made with that ultramarine red and that ultramarine turquoise was really nice. This was a color that mixed on the paper, and I loved it. I love the way that turned out. So this was the original, and this is the finished product. Like I said, not an art not an art piece whatsoever, but I loved it.